good question about the Pentagon having to clear military books and movies, and how like funding of US propaganda works about the military. So maybe you've heard me talk about the Pentagon had to clear my book on culture. Sometimes you'll hear me say my book was approved by the Pentagon when I'm like shutting down the vet bros. I'm Daniella, scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership. And I was former Captain Mestyanek in the US military. And if you have worked for the Department of Defense and you are going to write and publish something about the military, you're supposed to send it to the Pentagon for them to clear it for secrets. I was also the intelligence officer, so let me explain how the secrets work, right? You sign, when you go into the military, you're going to have secret or top secret clearance. Not always. Some people don't have any clearances. Those soldiers still might have secret stuff shared with them in the guise of need to know this for a mission. And so anyone who has worked for the Department of Defense has to have the Pentagon clear their books. Now, that being said, they don't get to approve or disapprove it. We are not asking for their opinion. That would be against the First Amendment and have all kinds of issues, right? So even though my book compares growing up in the world's worst religious schmex cult to being in the cult of the US Army, and really takes on criticizing the way they treat women and all of the schmexual violence in the military for women. So even though my book is very critical, they're not allowed to be like, no, you can't publish this. So you've probably seen other videos about this. They asked me to change 3 words. Some special operations group that was trying to recruit me, and even though they have a wiki page, I was asked to just call them the Force. There's another group called the Wives, where her husband's in special operations, and she has to call it the unit. So it's stuff like that. When movies depict the Pentagon, I don't think they always have to get cleared. When they're really big ones, they do. But a lot of times, because they're going to have consultants and writers who've been working for the DoD, they're going to, in order to get it accurate, right, they're going to have to get it cleared by the Pentagon. But again, it's not supposed to be for secrets. Just like they're not supposed to be able to classify something out of embarrassment for the government or for the benefit of the government. It's only supposed to be if it leads to the deaths of Americans or the deaths of many Americans, which is the difference between secret and top secret. So now, can the Pentagon possibly stay on top of everything that people who work for the DoD have produced? Of course not, right? In theory, I should be submitting all of this stuff to them. In theory, every essay I write, I should be submitting to them. Nobody does that in reality. They don't have that many resources to go over everything. Now, the flip side is, if they decide something you have written and put out in the public space is classified, they can just open a trust and take any and all of your money or royalties that are coming from it. Not necessarily the publishers, just yours. This happened to Mark Owen, who wrote No Easy Day about them SEAL Team 6 going after bin Laden. Okay, so the Pentagon said, no, you can't write this stuff. He said some version of, I'm going to publish it anyway, and he did. And it was a big deal, and the publishing industry still talks about it because the Pentagon came for him and took all his money. Now, it was funny because I was an intelligence officer for a battalion of helicopters in the 101st Division, Airborne Air Assault Division, that somebody wanted me to say last time. And when Mark Owen's book, No Easy Day, came out, and we were ordered, from big army all the way down, that it's like, you're not allowed to tell your soldiers not to read it. But nobody is allowed to sit around and speculate, soldiers amongst themselves or soldiers with their families, what parts are classified and what parts aren't. So that is how it works. Now, obviously, I don't believe that the government only classifies things that are supposed to be classified, and I do think they use it for a lot of reasons. And I think when Colt 45 is in the office, he's going to be even worse about all of this, just like he was last time. But there you go. That's how it works. And there is government jobs at the Pentagon. The Pentagon does pay people whole salaries, probably high salaries, to just review books and movies and stuff that goes out into the world. I would personally stop short of calling it propaganda, because nobody would call this book like propaganda for the military. So it's not like they're reviewing it to have their kind of say like that. But certainly interesting process. And if this video makes you want to write someday like feminist military erotica just for the point of submitting it to the Pentagon, yes, and I will be doing that someday. Signed copies of Uncultured attached here.